Welcome back to Starting Point, everybody. We're going to return now to our healthcare conversation. In less than 3 hours, the justices will announce their ruling. And as we all know, and we've been talking about for a long time, this could change the entire frame of healthcare in this country. Republican Senator Mike Lee from Utah is a former law clerk to Justice Samuel Alito. He attended oral arguments in the Supreme Court's healthcare case. It's nice to see you, sir. Thanks for talking with us this morning. Which way do you think it's going to go?
Well, I think the court is likely to invalidate the individual mandate. This is something that, for most Americans, offends their basic sense of freedom, and this is not something they want. I think the justices also understand this doesn't fall comfortably within any of Congress's enumerated powers.
Some people have said, most notably Jeff Toobin for us, said, you know, if it's Chief Justice Roberts writing the decision, that signals something. What do you think that signals?
If it is Chief Justice Roberts writing the opinion, I think that signals that it's likely an opinion invalidating the individual mandate. Chief Justice Roberts was fairly opinionated at oral argument, and every time he expressed an opinion critical of the mandate, he tended to express it in terms of the first person. You know, I have this concern, I have that concern. When he was expressing the other viewpoint, he would say, some would say that we should uphold the mandate. And I took that as a pretty strong indication as to which way he leans in this case. So if he's authoring the opinion, he assigned himself the opinion. That means he's in the majority. That means the majority opinion is likely to invalidate the mandate.
So let's say that you're correct, and in fact the individual mandate is invalidated. What happens to sort of the other things around it? Does the pre-existing conditions clause, for example, if you can't fund that, what happens to that? What happens next?
Well, I think it is very likely, if the court does in fact invalidate the mandate, that it also invalidates the community rating and guaranteed issue provisions, because those really couldn't exist. They couldn't operate in isolation of the mandate without causing the whole structure to become unstable. That's why I think on the severability analysis, at a minimum, if the mandate goes down, so too does guaranteed issue and community rating.
Is there a concern politically now, let's shift and talk politics, that if you throw out, and we know that Boehner has said that basically the goal will be to try to overturn all the different provisions of the law if in fact they can get the individual mandate thrown out, you lose a number. What's the number of children who are not covered, Sanjay, by insurance? 26?
Yeah, 13 to 15 million probably.
So you lose the coverage for pre-existing conditions. You have a bunch of people who don't have health care. All those could be, I think, for Democrats, real issues in an election year over the next 5 months. Isn't that a challenge for you to kind of answer those charges over the next 5 months?
No, I think those will certainly be issues, not just for Democrats, but also for Republicans. One way or another, we're going to have to approach this logically and on a step-by-step basis so that we make sure that we address these difficult challenges that Americans face with their health care. One way or another, what we've got to move toward is a system in which Americans have more options, in which Americans, in consultation with their doctors, make their own health care decisions, rather than have them being made for them by government bureaucrats in Washington.
Will Kane, who's the pressure on politically, though? Let's say in fact the individual mandate goes down, as many people have been predicting.
You know, I think that most of the pressure is on President Obama. His signature legislation will be been deemed unconstitutional. That will not play well politically, but I do think it injects health care back into the debate. I'm not sure health care is a debate that Mitt Romney wants to have right now. I think he'd like to have it exclusively on the economy.
Yeah, that's a very important point. I mean, obviously, this is the president's signature domestic policy achievement, and they would like to have it upheld, very much so.
Right, and if it's not, that's just bad news.
It is bad news, but, you know, there is always, you never know, unintended consequences in politics, right? I mean, you never know. Something happens, and you can turn it around, and it may become a big issue that's a positive for the president in the election. I mean, I personally think that they definitely want their best outcome for the White House would be to have the whole thing upheld, which I think there's a really strong possibility of happening.
And it's worth pointing out again that, you know, Governor Romney knows about mandates. I mean, he did this in Massachusetts. He had a mandate, and that's an issue that may come up again in terms of trying to distinguish himself.
Senator Lee, let me give the last question to you. You know, there's an interesting poll out that asked, are the Supreme Court justices biased? And 76% of the people who were asked said that judges were influenced by personal or political views, and only 13% felt that they make decisions based only on legal analysis. Another 11% said they just don't know. Does that concern you, that there's a really big sense that the courts are partisan, the Supreme Court?
I also think it's inaccurate for whatever it's worth. These justices do approach the law from their own different philosophical vantage points. But that is not the same as saying that they are politically charged, that they vote according to the party of the president who appointed them. And I think it's important for the American people to understand that we do have 9 justices who don't always agree. We have 9 justices who each approach the law from a different philosophical standpoint. But each of them is determined, I believe, to find the right answer in each case, and I think that's what they've attempted to do here.
It'll be very interesting to see, of course, how this case comes down. Mike Lee, Senator from Utah. Earlier I said you're from New York, but no, from Utah. Thank you for joining us, sir. It's always nice to see you. We appreciate it. Coming up in our next